Hi, this is Sean Spence, CEO of Armchair Telethon, and I'm here today again with Armchair Diary, an entrepreneur story. It's my little daily diary, and I'm just sharing the things that are happening in my life. And one of the things that occurred to me is that I've got all this crap behind me, and you don't have any idea what it is, and some of it's a little bit weird, and you probably want to know. And so I just thought I would give you a quick little tour. Now there's lots and lots of books. I've got business books and history books and novels, and I read a lot, and I have read a lot, and I'm a little bit of a pack rat in that way. So there's just lots and lots of books. And if you ever need a good recommendation, I'm happy to give it to you. And then, here in the corner, for example, potentially slightly racist, but not really super sweet. My grandmother, my mother's mother, loved Indians. She loved the American Indian. And by the way, I used to raise a lot of money with Indian tribes all around the country because of, I worked with the Democrats, and the Democrats raise a lot of money from Indian tribes, and they do prefer, or at least the ones I interacted with, which was hundreds, they preferred to be called Indian. I did talk to a lot of them. I asked that question, and they also, I have often been corrected by Indians for saying Native American. They preferred Indians. So anyway, my grandmother loved the Indians. She had these all over the place. This is Mamaw. This was like Mamaw's house. This was part of the deal. And so when she passed, I wanted to have one of those to think of, and that's in my background, and it's in all these videos pretty much. Now this up here, you could zoom in probably and see the picture here. That is a plank of wood. It's a piece of art created with Sharpie marker, which this artist, Graham, he was a friend of mine, and I used to see him a lot. And I've got several of his works of art. He often described me as his largest private collector of his work. And it's got ants all through it because that's like ants, like human beings just living together and just doing their work. And it's called Another Day in the Dirt. So, it's the whole ant motif, and that's the way it is. Now, real quick, let me show you here. Here's another one right next to my office, and it's the American flag. And instead of the stars, it's his ants. And, again, kind of talking about that's who we are. We're just ants working together, trying to get through our days, and that's what he thought. Behind me, another thing I want to point out is directly above my head, right there, you can see my dad. That's a picture of my dad, and that's another thing that you could zoom into. Hey, Dad. I did not put that there intentionally. It's just been there for a very long time. It's been there for years here in this. Used to be a garage, and we converted into a very nice office that I'm very proud of and that my wife decorated. So it's really nice, and she gets all the credit for it. It's very comfortable and usable. But that's my dad, and he gets a lot of the credit for me being an entrepreneur. I've started companies that failed. I've started the companies that have succeeded. And my dad did that too. I always think about when I was a kid, and probably 12, 13, 14, something like that. And he started the paint store, and that was not the business he was in. He was not in retail, and he didn't know anything about it, except he knew about paint because he built houses and that sort of thing. But I also remember when his partner took off with the money, and he lost $60,000, which is a lot of frickin' money. So that was something that, taught me, because he just got back up. He felt bad. My mom yelled at him. It was horrible for a few weeks. And then he just got back on the horse and started another thing and did whatever it was that he did. And I'm really proud of him, and that's a big part of who I am. Now, one thing I should mention is that I often refer to my dad as an entrepreneur. I do not often refer to my mother as an entrepreneur, but I really should. My mom worked for like 30 years for the same place as a psychologist at Trover Clinic in Madisonville, Kentucky. And then she worked for a few years for another place because they started, like so many healthcare places, breaking up and going their separate ways. And so she went there. And then they laid her off because she was doing a great job. She was generating a ton of billings, but they were not collecting on those billings. And so they laid my mom off. Stupidest decision they ever made. Great for her. She moved across the street to what used to be my dad's office. He had just passed away a year or two earlier. She moved into his office, put out her own shingle, did her own thing, set up her own practice. And honestly, for the last, I don't know how many years, but several years of her career, she made more money than she'd ever made before because she did a great job of doing the work like she always had, but she did the billings herself and she was able to collect the money. And so she helped people and she made a great living. So anyway, that's pretty much it. That's my office. You can see some of the entrepreneurial heritage and you can see some of the things that I've chosen to have around me. And that's all part of the entrepreneurial story. And I appreciate you being here. Excuse me, I'm choking myself. But that is Armchair Diary, an entrepreneur story. I'm Sean Spence, Armchair Telethon. Thanks for being here.